Hey everyone, Josh here from Patriotic AF. Hey, I just wanted to drop in and give you a quick extra dose of freedom and some motivation, hopefully, for you to start your day. Um, real quick, one of the greatest things about starting and running Patriotic as Fuck has been the interaction that I get and the experience that I get on a daily basis with such a remarkable group of like minded patriots. Um, Really, my only goal from the start was to work towards building a community where people could freely educate themselves in the history, process, and the constitution of the country while having the ability to interact and collaborate. You know, the ability to share ideas free from judgment, hate, or negative criticism. And as we really began to expand and grow, especially over the past couple months, these experiences have really been a blessing and a significantly humbling experience, that's for sure. I find myself learning from our customers and followers every day, which allows me to become much greater than I was yesterday. So thank you. Uh, Sincerely, thank you. I really do appreciate all the support. Um, but today, one thing I wanted to do was take the time to bring forth a sensitive subject and kind of shed some light on it. Me personally, I have many friends whom I served in the military with who've undergone some pretty intense and traumatizing experience. And those experiences resulted in some pretty severe PTSD for some of them. Many of these experiences were combat or law enforcement related that occurred over their time spent in the Middle East and even here in the States. And I realized that after these occurrences, their lives were effectively changed forever. Um, and that PTSD impacted even the most simple parts of life that most of us take for granted and don't even realize that they're doing so. Something as simple as going to the grocery store, interacting with people in groups, or even having normal conversations can easily become a challenge with a variety of symptoms. Some experience overwhelming anxiety, resulting in extreme panic attacks. And those panic attacks most times render them unable to adequately function. Some have to re experience these traumatic events, you know, and that experience is usually triggered by a bunch of different conditions that they undergo in their day to day environments. Some people experience debilitating nightmares on a regular basis, causing them to be violent in their sleep. And, you know, a lot of those people even experience some pretty extreme and severe depression. And a lot of times those result in suicidal tendencies, or the victim may even just completely lose and disregard any respect for their own condition or life. And a lot of these people, they experience a combination of these symptoms, and they experience a combination of a lot of the symptoms that I didn't describe. And it's not something we see every day, you know. They do a good job of keeping it to themselves and coping and hiding and have their mechanisms in place. But it's not just a challenge for them. It's also a challenge for their families and their loved ones and their friends and their kids. And, you know, all these people in their lives, not only are they trying to sympathize with, their family member with PTSD, but they're also trying to empathize with those loved ones. And a lot of times that empathy is close to impossible. You know, there's really no true way for them to really experience what that person went through. And it can be a challenge. So this message is for those of you out there living with PTSD on a daily basis, or those of you who are experiencing the PTSD of a loved one or experiencing indirectly. I want to personally reach out and let you know it's going to get better. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we as a community here at Patriotic AF, thank you. Sincerely thank you for the sacrifices you've made and continue to make for our country each and every day. Especially knowing that despite what you face today, if you were asked to go back and do it again, you would. Okay, so to my story. So I have a very close friend of mine that I've known since about 2006 who fights PTSD, even years after his honorable service. Um, to protect his identity, let's just go ahead and call him Joe. What I can say is Joe served close to 10 years in the Army infantry as a sniper. He did numerous rotations to Iraq during the height of the war in the 2000s. And I can tell you from personal experience, Joe was literally a model non-commissioned officer. He truly believed in our country and stood by what he represented, and he stood by the oath that he took and I took and that many of us took. He stood by it word for word, through and through. I can tell you I was lucky, very lucky, to spend 15 months with him in Iraq. And it was pretty rough there at that time, especially for him and his comrades. Over the years, Joe and I went our separate ways. After we got out and we got back, but we kept consistent contact with one another. I can say is, Joe and I, we had a common interest in playing video games. We did that quite often, and obviously kept contact through Facebook, and social media pretty consistently. Now, one thing interesting about Joe, however, is he was diagnosed with severe chronic PTSD. So severe that it rendered him unable to function. On many days, I personally watched and observed as Joe did his absolute best to cope with that. He tried to find different mechanisms to help him continue to be a good husband for his amazing wife and a good father for his children. But most times these challenges got the best of Joe. And it was to the point where he would refuse to leave home. He didn't want to go into public. He didn't want to drive. He didn't want to interact with anybody in person. And for me, watching Joe go through this, it was pretty heartbreaking. Especially for me, knowing how much Joe sacrificed for our country and who he was before his service. Now, luckily for Joe, his wife, we'll call her Jane, she stepped up to the plate big time. And she did it through probably the most difficult time that he's ever experienced. And she stood right there through him, stepped up and, supported him in any way that she could, whether it meant financially in the house, taking care of the kids, she was there. And, luckily for Joe, he had a support system through that family and through the battle buddies that he acquired through his time in the service. And, all of us did our part to help him persevere. And, luckily for Joe, he's now making it. So a couple days ago, Joe reached out to me and he asked for some workout and nutrition tips. Of course I obliged, and, eventually it kind of sparked a conversation where he started talking about what he was doing and the accomplishments that he had made moving forward, and he'd been focusing on fitness and trying to get better and get back into shape. And one thing I could tell right off the bat when he started talking about it was how excited he was. And I could sense it. I could tell he was really making some significant progress. I really saw that positive change. He was working towards it. He was definitely making it there. And during that conversation, I had an experience that I don't think I'll ever forget, where he confided in me. After telling him how proud of him I was, he said, I quote, "Thank you, dude. I really owe it to you and just a few like you who inspire me every day. I start my day and think of how I can inspire and how I can maintain control." Literally, he's in a situation where he has to fight to maintain control of his own emotions and this PTSD. And I can tell you the way Joe does it is through fitness. Joe wakes up every day and asks himself how exhausted he wants to be that day. And then what he does is he backwards plans to basically set himself up for success and exactly what he needs to do to accomplish that. Now, after years of fighting this demon, Joe is now pushing the limits of his PTSD in many other ways because of this progress he's making. He started to drive. He started to spend time out of the house, and he's literally forcing himself to enjoy the life of being a husband and father. And I can't tell you how proud I am of Joe and the accomplishments and the movement forward that he's making in just a short period of time that he's picked up fitness as a hobby and a lifestyle. So I guess for many of you, the question that you ask is fitness the key? Well, for some of you, maybe. I know for me personally, I use fitness as an outlet for me, to get through my trials and tribulations. But for some, fitness may not be the answer. What I can tell you the answer is the answer is finding that passion, rediscovering how to invest that part of your soul that has been suppressed through the PTSD, rediscovering yourself and teaching yourself to regain control over those demons. And what I can tell you is you can do it. And what I can also tell you is we're with you. So for those of you who are like Joe, for those of you who fight this every day and fight the anxiety and fight the depression, what I can say again is there's a light. And that light may be at the end of your life, but it's never not worth fighting for. Take a look around at the world around you and just think about all the people who miss you and who love you and want to be there for you and who help you, including us over here at Patriotic AF. You're going to get better. You're going to improve, and you'll make it through it. I promise. What I can tell you is the best advice I can say is to use that support system, like I said. Use your doctors, use your therapists, use the VA, and go through the process. But, that stuff's all there to help you, but I can tell you is the biggest piece to this whole puzzle is the fact that you're the only one. You are the only one who knows your limits. And what that means is that you're the only person who knows how far you can safely push those limits. Find a hobby that pushes those limits, even if it's not fitness. Find something that you can invest that passion into. That same passion that you gave to protect our country. I can say again, we believe in you. And for everyone else out there, I just implore you to please remember our veterans, our service members, law enforcement, and first responders, they truly do put their life and their well-being on the line each day they serve this country. They're the heroes. They're our heroes. Joe is a hero. Thank you.